She's a great supporter of 10 by 9 whenever we come up to the north coast or the northwest. Please, big warm hand for Alice Hutchinson.
I am a lover of Gothic fiction, capital G, Gothic. My rhetoric has long been haunted by monsters, frequently intrigued by the fantastical, the mythical, and the other. During my GCSEs, I was introduced to Mary Shelley, reading for the first time Frankenstein. I was entranced by her work, taking my first steps into 18th century literature. She was a young woman, hanging out with the Romantic poets, capital R, Romantic, Percy Shelley and Lord Byron. But I was not so interested in these literary greats. I wanted to know more about Mary and her monster. A monster I was already familiar with. Quasimodo, Count Dracula, and Frankenstein's monster. Beastly figures I knew by name long before my literary interest grew. Some before I could even read. These monsters had walked with me through my childhood, not in my own literary language, but in the words of my grandpa. Mary Shelley's monster says, "I have love in me, the likes of which you can scarcely imagine, and rage the likes of which you would not believe. If I cannot satisfy the one, I will indulge the other." The love for my grandpa is indeed substantial. I scarcely could imagine a more steady and supportive presence, particularly during my first years at university. But growing up, I was unaware of any darker side to his life. On swimming trips, he was the shark snapping at fast-kicking feet. He was the bear in the woods, crashing through undergrowth as little trainered feet ran. He was the lurching, reanimated corpse making a little girl giggle. Always willing to be the monster who helped me swim harder, run faster, and laugh loud. But within these impersonations and conversations lurked something I couldn't yet see. My dad recounts Grandpa impersonating the Hunchback of Notre Dame, calling to the bells, bells, bells with enthusiasm. I remember watching the animated film with him, missing all the subtext. An avid cinema goer, my grandpa would tell me about Christopher Lee's Dracula, menacing on screen, making women in the theatre scream. Of course, he was not scared. Not scared of Dracula, anyway. I knew the likeness of Boris Karloff, described in words before I ever saw his iconic image. The square-headed, bolt-necked visage playing Frankenstein. Frankenstein, a frequent, self-deprecating touchstone, and a personal favourite of mine. There are lots of photos of my grandpa before I was born. Younger, often stripped to the waist on sunny holidays. My experience of him was, however, of a man seldom seen without a shirt, who was deeply uncomfortable being photographed. Photos of him were now largely in groups, at family gatherings, birthdays, Christmas. Only under duress would he submit to the lens. In a rare exception, a picture is taken of the two of us, standing side by side in the small living room of my grandparents' house. He is sensible shirt and trouser wearing. I am wearing a purple dress and purple tights, my favourite colour. Neither of us have changed our fashion sense too much in the decades that have followed. I remember a certain party atmosphere, but I don't remember there being any special occasion. A weekend staying with my grandparents, and yet weekends with, at that time, their only grandchild, were often treated in a celebratory style. My granny was a keen photographer of family, meticulously writing on the back of carefully developed images the date, occasion, who is who. This collection of photographs are now precious artefacts of a time before the dementia, when the dates, occasions, and whos have become a little less sure. My granny was also a keen card maker, an arts and crafts dealer with glitter pens and stickers. I was given the task of making a card with the photograph of my grandpa and me. Put sticky fingers fixing it to the front of the card, pride of place, and yet his face, disapproving. Cut me out. What? I asked, not understanding. You can't send it like that. Cut it in half. I am confused. I look at the photograph. I am seeing a representation of our relationship, my grandpa and me. A relationship that is important, foundational, a source of joy. No, cut me out. I ruin it. Incredulous, my childhood self feels this as a rejection. A rejection I express by having a big cry. If I was a boy, I would be told not to cry. Boys don't cry. But I am not a boy. I am girl, granddaughter, other, full of love and feelings. Unable to stop the tears, he leaves the room. I am left to the comfort of my granny. He does her best to explain. He just doesn't like photographs of himself. But I like it, I insist. I am too little to put into words what it means more than this, but to continue to refuse to cut the photograph. Later he returns and says, "It's okay. Don't cut it up. You can keep it the way it is." My childhood self is appeased. My adult self has a new perspective of this sacrifice, a choice between one impulse over another, the love and the rage, knowing now about the appointments, the surgeries, the cutting from the face while awake, the skin cancer insecurity, the things he could not say about seeing his face in photographs, the things he said without saying, existing between the words when he talked about monsters, the shared, stitched together feeling. Frankenstein. To the man in the photograph, I say, "You saw your likeness in Boris Karloff. Monster you saw, I wasn't scared of. But if you're a monster, I'm glad you're mine. I always liked Frankenstein."
Thanks so much, Alice. I love the way you weaved all those parts together. Brilliant. Is the father of our Frankenstein-loving Alice. So please, big warm welcome for Paul Hutchinson.
Trick-or-treating is a rush of adrenaline, sugar, and after-dark hysteria, of knocking on doors and waiting to be treated well with sweets from friendly neighbours who we know or know to see. And the children in this true folk tale had dressed for the occasion. Bloody mouths, dark clothes, vampire teeth. And the deal was this. You rang the door and waited politely in your monster outfit. After 5 seconds, if no one answered, you rang the door again. 5 seconds is a long wait for a child on a Halloween night wearing a bloody mouth, dark clothes, and vampire teeth. If the door remains shut, you move on, mentally moaning the meanness of the house. But usually the door opens and you say the magic words. "Trick or treat," you say together, to the adult who has opened the door smiling. Then you wait for sweets. Then you say thank you and leave. On to the next house, on to the next sugar blast. Dentists hate this time of year. This night, 3 children from the neighbourhood came to our house, our door. Legend says they were sisters 10 and under, but you can't always trust the legend with the facts. The sisters came to our house, the left-hand corner house in the cul-de-sac off the circular road. They rang the bell. No answer. They waited 5 seconds. No answer. They rang again. No answer. Just as they were about to leave, they heard muffled noises from behind the door. They stopped, waited, watched, listened. They heard the door chain being loosed. They heard the snib coming off the door. They wondered how many sweets. The door opened a crack. This was new. Perhaps the door was stuck. The 3 children waited in newness, emboldened by their sugar love. The door opened another crack, but not enough to see who was there. Who was there? Did children live here? Was this a child at play, trying to trick them out of treats? Still they couldn't see who was behind the door. They waited, watched, listened, excited. Trick or treat on the tip of their red sugared tongues. As soon as the door opened, they would shout, "Trick or treat," and show their bloody mouths, dark clothes, vampire teeth, innocents dressed as monsters. Then more movement. Finally, the door slowly opening, slowly, opening, open. Trick or shite! The children dropped their sweets and ran, afraid and full of animal instinct, running for their lives, or so it felt, running full pelt through the suddenly dangerous streets, tears in their eyes as they raced for home, safety, comfort, banging on their house front door, banging until they were let in, panting, distressed, saved. What had they seen? According to legend, they had met a monster, a huge beast with a face that oozed green pus, with long red worms for hair, who roared from hell that harm was near. I had heard the hell roar, had rushed downstairs to find in the hall my father in his soon-to-be infamous monster mask. A full-face, green-skinned rubber mask that always appeared wet and oozing, surrounded by threads of long, lifelike, fake ginger hair that moved as you moved your head. This was the first time Dad had donned the diabolical disguise. All of the neighbours would hear of it, and the story became part of the family canon. The time Dad scared the children at Hallowe'en. The time Dad growled at the trick-or-treaters when they came to the door. According to legend, this was why 2 of our neighbours from the next street never spoke to any of my family again. According to legend, the neighbours already knew of my dad's reputation as a man not to be bothered, as a man not to cross, as a man with a history of violence outside of the house, as a monster who drove a Volkswagen Beetle. But I knew the inside story, the man of rough amusements, the man of hugs and wrestling, the man of hard tackles, the man who transmuted into a shark to chase his sons in the swimming pool, to scare for fun, not harm, to shock the moment into adventure. I knew this, the affectionate man behind the monster, but others only met or heard about the beast. According to my dad, he had stolen the mask on his night job, working as a bouncer in a Bangor nightclub. And during one Halloween season, the lead singer of a local band had made his entrance onto a low-lit stage wearing a highly convincing, that is, monstrous, full-head monster mask, causing the girls in the crowd to cry out as one, happily terrified together, watching the boys in the crowd pretend that monsters didn't faze them, putting on their tight boy masks to hide their feelings from the dance floor. I asked Dad why. Why had he stolen the monster mask from the dressing room of the local band? Well, son, he said with faultless logic, they wouldn't have given it to me if I'd asked them. After the Halloween incident, the monster also appeared at my younger brother's birthday party, lifting children as he roared through the event, making the celebration something special. After the party, as parents came to collect their kids, I heard one child say, Mummy, can I have a monster at my birthday party? Why not, Mummy? Monsters are great. Mummy, he doesn't bite, Mummy, honest. I think he lives in their house. He did.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul.